to his computer. So, what's up, guys? This is episode 2. We're gonna say episode 2 because we're making a podcast. All right, this is what we do. We're making a episode 2. Everybody inside, I love it. I love it. I love it. This is your boy, Mr. High Energy. We got Wolf on Y'all Street. Oh,
Hello.
We got G Bugs. G Bugs, how do you want to be known? Because I know
Hey, you know, G Bugs is cool. You can call me G Bugs, but it's at George Flips Houses. You know about it.
That's what I was gonna say. George, I wanted to at George Flips Houses. Okay, cool. So
I'm cool to be called G Bugs for this whole thing, though. That's my name. So
we're gonna hype it because we want them to know, like, you are still a professional. You still are a young entrepreneur. You still are doing things in this world. You still are African American.
That was legit. It's all about environment too.
Exactly. You came in a little. I'm not sure if it's my end.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So, guys, welcome back. This is Iron, as we called it. We're what's it called? Workshopping everything here. So bear with us. But we're gonna get back into the discussion of day 1, right? Episode 1. Today, as you see, we have Mr. Jerry Girley. Is that how you say it?
Reverend Jerry Girley, yes, sir.
Do you mind just introducing yourself, saying a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, what you're involved in, just so the listeners know?
Sure. So you said my name right. I'm Jerry Girley, and I am a assistant pastor in the Apopka, South Apopka. I start with that position because I think that's the most spirituality and spiritual development and spiritual enlightenment, empowerment is the core of human existence. But beyond that, when I have spare time, I'm a civil rights attorney in downtown Orlando. I have my own firm. I also do criminal defense. I've been doing that for working in the area of law for the last 20 years. Originally from Los Angeles, grew up in Long Beach.
Hey.
You may have heard of that small city out there called LBC.
I love the LBC.
Lived in the same neighborhood as a guy named Snoop Dogg, but when
Mm-hmm.
I was a dog, he was a puppy. So that's my story. And anything else you guys want to know, I'd be happy to tell you.
No, that was beautiful, and it's crazy because I really felt like God has been placing me in rooms with those who are politicians or those who are lawyers or those who are attorneys. And I got convicted. I was in a room last night, Black Man's Lab. I'm gonna do a lot of name dropping, guys, because I do want this to be a community. Don't just follow us and not follow the community, right? We're just here what we have to you guys from where we're getting it from. So shout out Black Man Lab out here in Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia. They're doing good things. And yesterday's panel was about politicians and how do we get what they were gonna do. So I was like, man, I need to start learning this thing. But that's not what we're here for today. We'll probably get that after the book. But before we open up and talk about these books, is anybody, like, guys, how do y'all feel? Like, anything I want to bring up to the table? Anything you want to talk about real quick before we jump into this book?
I'm just, like I said, man, I'm grateful because I spent 8 days in the hospital. So, like, legit, when you had messaged me, like, where you at? I was like on my way home.
Yeah, I'm glad.
And
see you home now. You feel me? For sure.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that, man. Like, I just realized today that God has just been showing me, like, all the favor that I have, dog. Like, it was like a situation where I wasn't even thinking about it, but like, it was a situation where legit it could have been over for me like 2 days ago, and it's just not. So I'm just grateful.
Mm-hmm.
And we spoke about you're not going anywhere, bro. God is not done with you. I just feel you have to deal with it. You have to go through it, but you're not going anywhere, brother. All right.
Sir.
How about you, G-Book? How you feeling?
Man, I'm just excited. Happy to be back. Happy to be here for episode 2. Happy you invited me back, man. I'm actually excited. Even we were talking a little bit about like the new generation versus the old generation. I'm excited for our guest to be here to give us that perspective from an older gentleman. I was even mentioning like I have the conversation between me and my father, who was around probably like similar age, and how we differentiate. So I'm happy to have him here and to hear his perspective and everything like that.
I'm being real. I'm super excited for this. I'm more excited than ever to really get a gentleman in the room that's going to really guide us to how we should be moving in our life, right? And not like a blueprint or step by step, but it's like, okay, you went through some things and you have accomplished some things. So we can really take your word and listen to what you have to say, because not like some people want to give you advice but haven't done anything, right? And they expect you to listen to them. It's like, brother, I would love to listen to you, but your life doesn't show me that I should follow you. So I'm grateful for this. So let's talk about it, guys. As you know,
too, so I'm happy to hear what he said. I'm already a fan, you know.
Yeah.
So guys, we are reading, for those who know, Understanding the Purpose and Power of Men by Dr. Miles Monroe. Okay, this is gonna be, I know you got the digital copy, my man. Generation.
Got it right here.
That's already showing the differences. You got the right.
We got it right here.
So the preface, man. Just to give a basic understanding, I'll give a little bit about mine. Deshaun, I really want you to dive deep into this, about giving a quick little intro of the preface, a little intro of the preface, because I feel like you taking this specific topic to heart. And I could tell you're putting your all into this, and you really feel this topic. So I do want you to go ahead and, matter of fact, I'll step out the way of greatness. Go ahead and give us a little introduction of going through. You know what I mean, and introduce Jerry to what we've been reading so far.
All right. I'm honored to be here. It's an honor to have Pastor Jerry Girley in the house tonight as well. So we're just going to do a quick recap of what we did last week, man. And I am very passionate about this topic because I do understand that there is a crisis going on, not just in America, but the world, where the male is trying to find his identity. And the fact, once again, that this book was brought across, my table, right at my doorstep when I got home from work one night a couple weeks ago. I truly appreciated it because it helps me. It helps me walk more confidently in what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? It helps me believe more wholeheartedly. It helps me keep the faith. It helps me be more fervent. And so in the preface, we pretty much talked about how the 21st male is in crisis, and I said that was the first. That was the first sentence on the page in the preface. And it's the truth, because they're shoving all kinds of stuff down the pipeline, trying to redefine the role of a male, trying to get you to think that you're one way when you're not. And of course, like I said, I do partake in the entertainment industry, and in that industry, they try to turn you into something that you're not, unless you show them what you really are. And so a lot of people, they don't take the initiative to continue to show who they really are. If it's a couple dollars in the front of them, it's going to be like, oh, you know what? It's just for the money, but I'm gonna steal this from Jeremy Anderson. I read this in a book once that a good name is to be desired above great treasure. So you know what I'm saying, I just try to keep my name clean out here. You feel me? And so a few points that we highlighted that I really want to talk about is that the men are in trouble but are afraid to admit it, and it's true. Because back in the day, like I said, and you can probably elaborate on this more, Pastor Girley, where back in the day, you could go to school and you can get a trade, and then you go out into the world and provide for your family. Or then like in more recent times, you could go to school, get your degree, and provide for your family. And now we're living in an era where you can make money legit off of sitting in front of your computer just the same way that we are. But it's not just the male that can make this kind of money, it's also the female. And so Miles Monroe is legit touching on, without saying these words yet, because we didn't get too far in the book. So we didn't go to the point where he's talking about actually people getting money from sitting right in front of their computer. But these roles have been kind of sort of reassigned. It's like, and the male doesn't know exactly what his purpose is on this planet, or the power, which I feel like it's a lot of things preached on that people gloss over. Like the fact that God told Adam to dress and keep the garden. Like that was the first instructions that was given to man. I'm like forming you over here, and I'm putting you in a place and giving you a job, and I'm giving you specific instructions that gives you direct access to what your purpose is. I told you to have dominion over this place. And what do? We sinned. We ate the fruit, and you already know what happened. We died, and we have redemption. So within that redemption, what we want to show is through this book that we do have the power and purpose to continue being exactly who God says we are. And so we were talking about change last week, like the negative reactions to change, which include denial. I want to too much, but I want to close in again, once again, on some of these things because I feel like it's really important that we realize legit what the strategy of the enemy is, which is to get us off track. And legit, when there's someone positive in your life, like I said, like not like I said, but like a good book says, darkness always fears the light. So what I'm saying, because light exposes what's in the dark. And so when people are in these dark places, which is I I perceive negative as darkness. You feel me? Like if you're living a negative lifestyle, what I'm saying, you can't really stand to be around people that are positive, or you don't want to change. You want to continue doing what it is that you're doing. You don't want that light to shine on exactly what you're doing. And so the denial is, the world says it's okay, I can, or I don't want to do that because that doesn't sound right. Up is down, down is up. And then we have the ignorance, which of course means I know exactly what's going on, but I'm just going to continue to choose to ignore. I'm going to ignore the facts that are out there because I like doing this, or I like living this certain way, or this is just how I feel from the beginning. And I did give them a girlyism. I did drop that last week when, Pastor Girley, I was talking to you one time and I said, I feel, and then you said, well, Mr. Williams, I have some advice for you. Get out your feelings. And so that right there would be included also in ignorance. The somebody say something?
Okay.
Oh, I thought somebody was trying to get in.
No,
The isolation, the anger, resistance, and then resentment. Bro, we ate really good off this preface last week. Now that I did the review,
yeah,
I was so focused and ready for one. When you said we doing the preface, it was still so much. It was so we could still glean so much from the preface.
It is coming a little choppy, though. I will say that it is coming just a little bit choppy.
And then all these effects they say, which we were.
Oh, so let's do that. Can you hear
Let me
us?
turn my hotspot on. Hang on.
I'm about to say that. Do that. Let's pause.
Yeah, I can hear you. Let me turn my hotspot on.
Let's pause though while you're getting that together. Pastor Girley, did you kind of get a concept of it, of what we're going over? I did want to throw in one thing, but I want to know, did you kind of get an understanding so far?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm gonna throw in one thing, and then I want to see maybe if G-Bo's want to throw something in as well too, and then kind of get your take on this topic. What I really took away from the preface was, the clash of the old ideals versus the new ideals. Meaning, back in the days, it was seen as the man is the provider of the household, the man is the protector of the household, and the woman took care of the household, the woman took care of the kids, right? To now, these new ideals where women are allowed to work, which is, I'm all for it. They're also allowed to pursue careers, pursue greatness, choose, I don't want to get into chapter 1 just yet, because they talk about when you could choose if they have babies or not. That's chapter 1. But one of the things that stuck out to me in the preface was this sentence, and it said, men are confused because they're confronted with the confliction of what the comparison, or I'm not sure the word is, I'm losing the word for it, but they're confronted with two sides of a coin. On one end, it's saying women are equals, treat them as such. We're no better than them. They could do whatever we can do.
Chauvinist.
And then on the other hand, it's be more delicate with women. Be mindful how you speak to them. Be mindful how you treat them. Be mindful how you react. Right? So men are confused because it's like, okay, well, are you my equal, or do I have to be delicate with you? Right? Or are you still the traditional ideals where the man is still providing, the man is still opening doors, which again, I'm not against, but the confusion comes where it's like, where women will be like, okay, take care of me, but they're also out making money. So now the household is being neglected. Does that kind of like give you an understanding of where I took from the preface?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. G-Book, did you want to throw anything in there?
Yeah, I'll even expand on the topic you've spoken about the differences between the old generation's idea of what a man is and what the new generation is being told the ideas of a man is. Even I remember we talked about in the society we're right now, because of social media and all the different influences from other people, there's a lot of different people telling you what a man is or what the ideal of a man is now. So even I want to open the floor to Mr. Girley to see what does he think about the differences between maybe when he was coming up, what the idea of a man was compared to maybe what is being preached now, or the differences in this generation now?
All right, the floor is yours, Pastor Girley. Time. Don't feel like you have to rush. I know we do a lot.
Yeah, so y'all are dealing with a very heavy duty topic here, first of all. And I would approach this conversation like I would approach it in Sunday school, or how a law school professor would approach it. I would ask you guys some questions. So I know you just asked me some questions. I'm gonna ask you some questions. And then that's the framework that we'll start from. I'm happy to have this conversation. But tell me how you feel, young gentlemen, viscerally. What is your perception? Are we trending in the right direction or the wrong direction in terms of roles, males, females? What do you think in your heart? This is the no judgment zone. What do you?
Are you talking
What do
about
you?
as a society?
Yes, yes.
I think we're trending in the wrong direction.
In what sense?
The fact that it's a lot more. Okay. So a lot of people feel like the restrictions have been taken off because of what society says, which is I can do whatever I want to, whenever I want to, however I want to. And the simple fact of the matter is we're not getting married as much. People are not treating women with as much respect. Domestic violence rates are going up. A lot of men are not in the home. And then we could say that's systematic, or we could say that's a spiritual thing. It could be both at the same time. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I was about to, I'm sorry. Yeah, let me.
It's crazy.
Yeah, Mr. Williams, I get the benefit of hearing from you frequently. I'd like to hear from some of these other young men.
You know, it's crazy. I was going to say something completely different, but you brought up some very, very valid points, Deshaun. But G-Bugs, take the floor. I'll go last.
I can see both sides to it, where one, I'm all for what's going on with women and the changing of roles of women, and how obviously we have to adapt to it and everything like that. And I do see certain areas where men are growing, but I also see different areas where women may be failing as men, with the rise of depression in men, the lack of direction, or really idea of what a true man is in today's culture and things like that, especially with the different male influencers nowadays trying to tell people the alpha male and this and that and things like that. So I definitely see areas where we're growing as men, but there's still a lot of work to be done, in my opinion.
So, that was a good question. That was crazy. Because deep down in my heart, I'm all for the change, and I say that because I forgot who quoted this, but until all men are free, none of us are free, right? So what I mean by that is, at one point, African Americans were told how to move, how to talk, how to dress, how to act, when to go to sleep, when they can make money, how they can live their lives, how much food they can put on the table, how many people they can live in their house. If they had to have, they were told. And we all can agree that that was not okay. Right. So I'm all for, a woman standing up for herself, a woman being able to take charge of her life, a woman being able to operate in this world as a human being, not as a subject. But I cannot neglect the statistics of what's coming from the world we're living in. And that's why it's such a good question, because, feelings, how I feel, I would love for us to be able to move in this direction. But logically, the statistics are showing that us moving in this direction, it's not working, right? But I do want to also say, I feel like everything has the potential for growth. And I think it's just much more than us saying because women are now able to do their own thing, or because men are suffering with this identity crisis, that we have to go back to the old ways. I feel like we have to adopt what's going on and make it work. And not in a way like, oh, if everyone says that we got to do this or make it work. No, like this is the life that we're living. So we need to come together as men, as women, as the church, as a government, which is, we know that's a different topic in itself. We have to come together to say, hey, the way our life, the way the world is moving, it's not suitable for everyone, but we know why that is, because the top 5% does not want that. So there's so many more questions at hand than just a man's identity crisis. It's who's pulling the strings, why are they pulling the strings, and what is to come next.
So, gentlemen, I appreciate this is Jerry Girley. I appreciate you sharing your thoughts. Now, when I approach a conversation, what I like to do is set up some framework in terms of what are our ground rules for discussion. What is our point of authority that we can all agree this is the standard? And so the initial question that I have is, do we all agree that God's word is the standard and the absolute final authority on what's good and what's not good for human behavior?
I agree.
100.
Okay. So then we can look to the Bible as our starting and finish point for any analysis. One of the things that the Apostle Paul tells us is that the struggle ultimately is spiritual, right? The forces that are bearing upon humans' behavior, humanity, are the invisible forces that are more permanent and more powerful, the spiritual wickedness in high places. So we're in the middle of a cosmic spiritual battle, and Satan is trying to influence man, to lure man off of God's plan and purpose for man's existence on planet Earth. And I'm saying that, within the context of your much broader conversation about purpose. And when I say man, I'm not just talking about gender man. I'm talking about the human beings, but certainly man. So then, now, if that's our framework that we're going to work within, the Bible is the court of final authority, then we can kind of come to some conclusions in terms of that there is a certain way that a man should be according to God's word, and that there's a certain role that a man has to play in society and in his home and his family, that he's supposed to be a leader. But what we can, and I will tell you, young men, I've been married for 43 years. And so what we often confuse and conflate leadership with is domination. Mm-hmm. And the Bible has never told us, or never remotely advocated, not at the beginning, not at the inception with Adam and Eve, that Adam as a man was to dominate. The role of headship and leadership is the chief servant, the chief facilitator. Christ is the head of the church, but he loved the church and gave himself for the church sacrificially. So Western notions of what headship is and leadership is confused and conflated with domination. So now that's spiritual analysis. Let's come down to the secular realm and park our spiritual conversation for a moment and talk about the fact that there has been extremes. I mean, men, when women couldn't vote, and when women had to stay home and was barefoot and pregnant and all of that stuff and ignorant, you can't find support for that in scripture. If you go into the scriptures and it talks about the virtuous woman, she had a business. She was in the marketplaces of life. She was an industrious person. So she was a helpmeet. She was a co-facilitator, although the husband was the head. But head means the guy who answers the door when the boogeyman is knocking at the door trying to get in to attack the family. It's not the guy who gets the last piece of chicken. The head means if there's only 3 pieces of chicken and there are 4 people at the table, that I will forego my piece of chicken so that my family may eat. So we have mixed up notions in our head about what headship is, what leadership is inside of family. And that is by diabolical. And when I use the term diabolical, I'm speaking about the devil. That's by diabolical design. So the world is off on these messed up notions about if what it means to be a man is that I have to keep my wife in a certain place. No, what it means to be a man, what it means to be a leader is to find out the good that God has placed in all those around you in arm's length. And if you have children, not to try to make Joe like Jack and not to make Jack like Jane, but to make Jack, to find out what God's purpose is for Jack, to cultivate, to encourage, to bring that out, so that Jack and Jane can be the best Jack or Jane that God put them on planet Earth to be, to facilitate, to serve, to lead, to lift up, not to have people looking up at you. So we have twisted notions of what leadership is about. And Christ came to give us an example. If you know the New Testament, when Jesus was washing Peter's feet, you all remember that, gentlemen? I'm saying a lot, but do you remember the example when Jesus was trying to wash the disciples' feet?
Yeah.
And Peter said, "No, you're the man." I'm paraphrasing. We should be washing your feet. And Jesus said, "Listen, Peter, if I can't wash your feet, then you can't be on my team." And then Peter said, "Well, then wash not just my feet, but my head and everything else." And then he said something very significant to Peter. He said, "Listen, I'm trying to set an example. I'm trying to show you what true leadership is about. The Gentiles, the Europeans, the Greeks, their notions of leadership is I get to be at the top, so everyone is looking at me. The sun is shining on me. I'm getting all the shine." When leadership is about serving, it's about seeing the big picture. It's about staying up late at night praying when everyone else is asleep. It's about asking God to intervene to give you guidance and wisdom and direction when you're going through difficult times, when your children are going through difficult times, when your wife is going through difficult times. It is about serving. And so many of us miss this. In America, the reason why we had let me just kind of talk to you about when I was growing up in the 60s and the 70s. They had I want to say women, it was called the Women's Liberation Movement. Okay, women's lib, and that was a big thing, and free love and the sexual revolution, all that was happening when I was growing up, where women were in fact suppressed and arguably oppressed, because what human beings do is they go from one extreme to the next. So in response to that treatment, which I would say was not prescribed in scripture, and believe it or not, if you look at because I'm a student not just of biblical history, but of world history, of African history. If you look at human history, at different times, women were in positions of leadership, especially in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
In Africa, and I want to give you two names that I would encourage you to look up. One name is Amani Renas. Amani Renas. Most Black people for sure, but most people, period, have never heard of this woman. But she was a Cushite woman. She was called a Kandake. Have you ever heard that term, Kandake?
No, I have not.
Kandake. The European rendering of that name is Candace. You've heard that name before, right?
Yes.
But that's African in its origin. It was actually a title. It was a ruler. It was an African ruler. Well, Amani Renas in 23 BC went to war with the Romans, the most powerful entity on planet Earth, led an army against the Romans and won. You never heard about Amani Renas, but Amani Renas comes from a tradition of powerful Black women. So we always, if we're now talking about inside the Black culture, we've always dealt with this issue of women being able to be in roles of leadership quite differently than Europeans and other people around the world. We have a very well documented history of our women being permitted to not dominate the men, but to show their intellectual prowess alongside of men. And so when you say things are changing, I'm taking the long view. Money Arenas was 23 BC. There are other Black women that were in positions of power going back thousands of years. One of our challenges, and I'm in Florida, I think a couple of you guys are in Georgia, is that right?
In Georgia, yeah.
Okay.
New York.
We're in New York?
Yeah, I'm in New York.
Okay. My son was in Astoria, Queens. That's where he lived until recently. Where are you?
In the Bronx.
In the Bronx. And my daughter's a lawyer, and I'm saying that because in 30, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, they would have said, my daughter, whose name is Brooke, you should be at home. And my daughter wants to have children and have a family, and she doesn't see those two things as mutually exclusive. But my daughter is a lawyer. She's also got a degree in divinity. And right now she's a college professor at Whitner Law School. She's many things at once, but what we need to be is what God put us on planet Earth to be. Everything that God put us on planet Earth, whether we're male or female, God is not called the male or the female to dominate one another. But yes, he has called, if we're following the biblical model, the man to be the leader. But again, our notions of what leadership is and headship is something that is far removed from God's word. It's about service. It's about surrender. And then, there's scriptures in the Bible that say husbands and wives are to submit themselves to one another. And that means to be accountable. I don't walk around the house beating on my chest, telling my wife, I'm the man. You better do what I say. Well, I can do that. But the dinner's going to be pretty cold.
Yeah. Not be no dinner.
Somebody say, I know your wife.
Yeah, it may not even be no dinner. And that's foolishness, because she is there and she helps me. She's got my back, and she's saved my bacon so many times when I thought I knew it, I had it figured out. You need to just listen to what I'm saying. Well, no, if we go back to the role that God assigned the original woman, to be a helper, to be a facilitator, not a doormat, not a slave, not a sex object, but a helper. You understand that, and you can build on that. Then you have to respect her, because she's a gift to you from God. And I can tell you, gentlemen, seriously, I'm 62 years old. 45 years ago, I was driving around LA and in 63 low-ride Chevy Impala, called myself J-Dog.
Hey.
I am a lawyer today. I have my own law firm. And you can look me up, civil rights. I go to battle against all the major titans in the state of Florida, Walt Disney, City of Orlando, the largest health. I win and I lose, but I get in there and I box with them. I wouldn't be able to do any of that if I didn't have a good woman who talked to me, support me, love me, even when I think I know what's right, and she has some insight, and she's being the voice of the Lord in that moment for me. I can't tell you how many times she's helped me and is helping me, even when I don't want her to help me. Sometimes when I know she's wrong, she's right. It's just understanding that it's not about who's in charge, because God's in charge, okay? He's in charge. And he puts us together to work to achieve his purpose in marriage and raising his children, because when couples have children, that is a gift from the Lord, but that is a stewardship that he entrusts you with. Those are his souls. There's we're talking about purpose. There's a purpose that he's placed them on planet Earth for, and therefore the purpose, exploring and developing and understanding purpose, begins with what your parents teach you, what your daddy and your mama model in your house. But anyway, brothers, I mean, I don't want to say too much, but this is a very deep topic. Okay, and I want to tell you, I appreciate the hunger, the interest, and getting it right, because as a man thinks, so is he. So we need to get our thinking right in our community, and then begin to, in the words, because I know about Dr. Miles Monroe and his writings, The Power of Purpose. He did, he in the mid 80s and into the late 90s and up to the time that he passed away, he was doing a lot of writing and lecturing and teaching on purpose. And so I'm excited. I'll close my mouth and let you ask me any questions or not at this point.
I really appreciate your answer to that. I even really quickly just want to say a quick comment, because I like a lot of what you said. I was very interested to hear your perspective, and even I like how you mentioned even in the early part how a lot of the ideas of the roles that we have with men or women aren't really the ideas that are the truth. Or even in the past, like you see, like a lot of the ideas of men are the provider and women are supposed to stay at home and take care of the babies and cook and clean come from a time really where women were oppressed, women couldn't vote, women couldn't do a lot of things in the world and things like that. So it was coming from a time where it wasn't even the right thinking, to where if you really look in the past, like I love the biblical mention that you made, women were great leaders in the community. Women were always strong. Women always had their own businesses and things like that. So I definitely think in the world that we live in right now, even like Brian said, I'm all for the change, because I feel like the changing of the perspectives on both sides of what men are supposed to be and what women are in this culture now are going to force a lot of changing of thinking for a lot of people and things like that, to where not only can we now accept that, like, yes, women are more than just supposed to be mothers and take care of the household and things like that. They can be businesswomen as well. They can take care of more than just the housewife task and things like that. They can be strong, independent women themselves and things like that. And even quick to last thing I'll say, like I even see it in like I know Brian can relate because we have the same mother, but I come from a relationship with my mother and father. My mother's a businesswoman. She's been in business for 30 years, has her own business, independent woman, has done big things. And my father has never had a problem with her being this big person in her profession. He's always been supportive. I've had conversations when I was younger with my father who said, her shine has no effect on him. He supports everything she's doing. He's right there if she's getting an award, whatever recognition, and never cared about any of like, his own egotistical pride, thing like that, as well as even with that dynamic. And he's always been head of the household. He did everything he needed to be as a father, as a leader. And my mother still knew how to be a wife. I remember growing up, even if my mom had a closing that day, a business meeting that day, when my dad walks in the house from work, she's doing what she got to do. She got a plate in the microwave for him. She warming it up. She hugging him, taking care of him when you walk in. So it's more than just about the traditional roles. It's bigger than that, definitely. And I feel like, what's happening in society right now is going to force people to really look into the roles of men and women in the relationship that we have, and it's going to force a lot of growth and things like that.
I'm just smiling because, first of all, God is good. That's all I'm gonna say, right? That's not all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna start with that. That's not all I'm gonna start with that. God is good. That right, because as I was listening to Pastor Girley speak, I'm in awe of the direction he took it, because go that deep into the spiritual on episode.
I
did it
as a preacher, a different perspective as well. I love the spiritual perspective.
Everyone knows me. My little brother tell you, I'll listen to 6 sermons back to back. Like I can never get enough of God, right? So bringing that, I'm like, yes. But then as I'm thinking, okay, well, I know God is the answer, but I kind of know the answers, but I still must say it. Like, what do we do when the world is having more, and they're not having more because you can't have more control over God. But it seems like the world is living in their own sin, right? Living in their own way, in their own ruling, you know, like the Pharisees, like, you know what I'm saying? Jesus came and told them what the rule was. They're like, no, Jesus, this is what's going to happen. He's like, bro, I got the answer. What do you mean? And they, no, we're doing this way. It's like, all right, if you want to, it's going to make you fail, make you fall. You're going to not get into the kingdom of heaven. But if you want to, so because right now you could tell the way the world is going, it's not based off of biblical principles. They're not moving as, let me not say that, not everyone, right? As many people as you can find that's not, you can find just as much as people that are.
Popular belief.
Right? To popular belief, thank you. That's where I look for. Popular belief, it's as if the world is winning right now and God is not. The reason why I was smiling is because of what Junior said. G Bug. I say, you know, we're gonna keep mixing the names up. G Bug, or George Phipps Houses, right?
I know about a lot of hidden.
And I say that because when you brought up the fact that it's interesting to see what the world's going to do, or they're going to be forced to really think a little differently because of how it's moving. I thought, well, isn't God good? God brought it to the, he made women what he said they would be in the word. Because at one point, the women didn't have businesses. At one point, the women couldn't be strong leaders. At one point, you know, in Western culture, at one point, they were looked down on, right? But now God has brought in the women to the roles that they can be, so they can be proper helpmates to us. And I'm like, well, that's amazing, right? I guess it's now, and me and another young lady, very, very intellectual lady, very she has great credentials. I think it's a couple of letters behind her name, but it's board certified in behavior analysis, I believe it is. So BCBA, I think that's what it was, for her master's. And me, so I speak to intellectual individuals as well too, so I can get a good understanding and not just what we feel or think, but people that actually have done studies and educated in this particular area, so I can get some real understanding. And you know, she had brought that up, right? She's just saying, right now, she actually brought up that the women are able to be a good helpmate. And speaking to her, I was able to see, okay, I wonder where this is gonna go. So, man, that was good. That was good. I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna let Deshaun, if you got anything to say. Wolf on Y'all Street.
Hey, so yeah, like we be rotating titles around here. But I was gonna ask Pastor Girley, because we have touched on the fact that women have been given the tools in the Western world to be proper helpmates, but your wife has been helping you for a long time. I wanted to know how you all were able to navigate through those times, as far as like not having that Western way of thinking, but you actually submitting to God and going to him about your helpmate.
Well, thank you for asking that, Sean. We are a work in progress, okay? And something that someone said to me when I got married, you know, I want to say I got married in 1980, so however long ago that was. Marriage is like the seasons of the year: summer, winter, spring, and fall. When you first get married, it's springtime. The birds are chirping. You're calling her on the phone every 30 minutes. Hey, baby. Hey, sweetie. I just want to hear your voice. Okay, let's hang up on 3. 1, 2. You didn't hang up. You know, that's springtime, you know. Everything's good. Then summer comes around and, you know, I still love you, girl, but I'm not calling you every 30 minutes. I got some work to do. I'll call you back in an hour. An hour and a half go by. You said you was gonna come. I'm working. Let me call you back. That's summer. I love you, but I just, you know, it's a little hot. I need some space. And then fall. And then fall comes. Green is not green anymore. It's brown. The stuff that was up here, tight muscles, is kind of drooping now. It's down around your waist. And you're looking and you're thinking in the back of your mind, wow, I don't know if I'd have messed up in here. I'm gonna see what I'm gonna study this situation. But you're now thinking maybe I made a mistake. I made a mistake. Then winter comes and nothing is happening. Not in the relationship. It's just ice cold. There's no green nowhere. You just know you made a mistake. You're on 285. What's that loop in Atlanta?
I'm new to Atlanta. I'm originally from New York, so I couldn't.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, it's a loop. I think it's 285.
Okay.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Bypass. And you're just trying to find your exit because you this ain't gonna work out. That's winter. A lot of people break up in winter. A lot of people get divorced in winter. A lot of people miss out in winter. But guess what happens after every winter?
Right.
It comes back around.
And with each cycle, with each complete cycle, you learn to trust. You learn, look, this person ain't my enemy. This person is, we've been through some stuff. We've been in sickness and in health. And, for better or for worse, I've been broke and she's been broke right alongside of me. Okay. We've been eating pork and beans and peanut butter and jelly so the kids can eat.
Real.
We've been shopping at Goodwill.
Mm-hmm.
So when she says, honey, let's take a trip. Let's take a 7-day cruise. Honey, let's go to China for 17 days. Okay. Well, it's not payday yet. Well, how much money do we need? Well, to get this covered, I need a check for $5,000. Okay, we'll go to the bank account and give us a dividend. It's the staying in it that brings you, Sean, and I'm answering your question, to the desired destination. Just staying in it, working it. If the grass looks greener on the other side, more often than not, it's just a septic tank underneath that. If y'all know what septic tanks are, where septic, yeah, it's a Florida thing. Where basically is if you're not tapped into the city plumbing, when you flush your toilet in Florida, it goes into a septic tank right in your front yard.
Fertilize your grass.
And the grass is very, very green.
Very.
So you're looking at this chick and that chick, and you're looking at the greenness. I'm using that metaphorically, but what's underneath that green is very often is something that you don't want and something that you don't need, something that's poison. So understanding that your wife is a gift, and treating her and valuing her as a gift and not as an enemy, but as an agent of God in your house. And you are a facilitator and a helper. You guys are helpers of each other. So I think that's the key. But I want to shift gears, though, and speak to another thing that seems to be possibly one of your concerns. There is a problem with the emasculation of the role of man in Western culture. We come up with terms like toxic masculinity. Well, men can be toxic. That's true. And again, in the past, particularly, and I heard one of you gentlemen, I don't recall which one, talk about there is a difference between how women have been treated historically in Western culture versus Eastern culture versus African culture. There's been difference in treatments. But I can tell you historically, without fear of contradiction, that in the African tradition, and even in the African tradition of Christianity, Christianity was stood up virtually, essentially, as a skeleton in Palestine. Then it spread in all corners of the earth, and it took on the cultural aspects of each place that it went, and it had a certain flavor when it went to the West. It had a certain flavor when it went to Asia, and it had a certain flavor when it came to Africa. But the Christianity that has always existed in Africa, and by the way, Christianity existed in Africa since the first century AD, not after the time of slavery. But Christianity came to Africa very early, and it took on, and that, of course, that's the Bible, right? With the chapter 8 of the book of Acts, with the Ethiopian eunuch who was there in Jerusalem, and He was reading from the book of, I believe it was Isaiah, and he couldn't understand it, and he had a conversion experience in his chariot. But anyway, I digress to simply say, look, there is an issue with emasculation. That's a separate conversation in my mind, but it's a related conversation. But it comes back to the first question that I ask you, guys, gentlemen. What is our standard? You know, when I go to court, I have an opinion. My opponent has an opinion, but what the judge wants to know is what is the law that you're going to quote to me, that what is the rule? And we all have to be in agreement on what the rule is so we can have a meaningful conversation. So if there's no one standard that is in agreement with everybody in society, and I would submit to you for your consideration that the issue is that there's no standard. So if there's no standard, then everyone gets to set their own standard. Okay. And that's when chaos happens in any given society. When we reject God's standard and we then begin to say, there's another plan, there's another way. This behavior began in the garden. This is the lie that Satan told Adam and Eve, and he's been telling that some iteration or variation of that lie ever since. You don't have to do it God's way. There's a better way. God is holding out on you. Religion is oppressive. God is a bully. In some form or fashion, he's convinced human beings, and especially in the West, and if quiet is kept, people who depend on religion in educated circles are looked down on as not being refined and developed enough. One of you gentlemen said, it seems as though the world is winning. What's the solution? As a lawyer, I would ask, what's the remedy? Here's the remedy. Jesus said it. Let your light so shine that men may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. There's no retort to the glory and the goodness and the light of God being demonstrated in your life. It's an unrefutable power that exudes from you. Now, I've been a Christian since I was 18, and the church in the West, particularly in the United States of America, has gone through this phase where we've been more concerned about garnering political power, associating ourselves with one political party or the other, number one, and pursuing prosperity above pursuing principle and relationship with God. This is just Jerry Girley's opinion now. I'm not saying this dogmatically. You don't have to agree with me, but if you look at, and I'm a student at 62, the one thing that I consider myself to be is an expert of nothing, but a student of many topics. But my most favorite topic that I study is the evolution and the development and the effectiveness or the ineffectiveness of the church in America and in the world. And what I see is that Christians are being too much like the world. How can we stand out if we're doing everything that they're doing? If we're thinking that the way that they're thinking, if we're rejecting God's word in the same way that they reject God's word, what's the difference between us and them? We can't make the world behave godly if they're not godly. We can't insist that people live like Christians if they don't believe in Christ. We got to show them Christ. We have to show it to them. And that's us, whoever raised that question, that's where the path forward is. It's in us letting the light of God come in us, reside in us, shine through us, and it is a very attractive light. It will do its job. But the Marines have a saying, they're looking for a few good men. The kingdom of God is looking for a few committed, young, intelligent, dynamic brothers like yourself who say, you know what, God, I'm all in. What is it that you would have me to do? Whenever people when they had a real encounter with God, and I want to give you two examples, one Old Testament, one New Testament. In the 6th chapter of the book of Isaiah, Isaiah saw the Lord. He was high and lifted up. And when he saw him, the the impact was immediately, Lord, if you need someone, here I am, send me. And then in the book of Acts, the apostle Saul had a conversion experience on the way to Damascus, and he was knocked to his feet off his feet. He was blinded, and when he spoke, he said, "Who are you, Lord, and what would you have me to do?" People who have true encounters with the true God, the real God, the God of heaven, the immediate and visceral response is, I'm here to serve your purpose. What do you want me to do? And now that kind of circles all the way back to your topic, which is purpose. Your purpose. What is your divine purpose? What is our divine purpose? All right, gentlemen.
That was beautiful. And I swear, moving forward, yeah, it's gonna get hot and heavy in here, because what I was thinking was, especially when you talked about I can't remember exactly what's gonna come to me, but the response was a lot of times, it was with the wife and the husband, and being that leader, and being helping her as well through that, right? Being that example. A lot of times, and this is crazy, it's the same thing with Christians. Men will want a certain woman, a certain wife, and vice versa. Women will want a certain man, a certain husband, but they are not ready to be that person that's needed in that combined relationship, right? And like, I'm on both sides of the fence, because I guess my mind, like a philosopher, I always think deep into both sides. Where I can see, when you get together, that's when you guys can build together, and you guys can grow together. You can become that person within that relationship. I understand that as well too. But there's a lot of damage that happens, and Pastor Jerry Flowers talks about this. If what's not handled in singleness, it'll affect you in your relationship togetherness, your wholeness. Because a lot of times we'll come in broken, we'll come in on edge, or with anxiety, or with identity crisis, as we're speaking of purpose and identity, and based off of that, we lash out, right? We don't know how to handle something that comes in our relationship. We don't know how to move forward in a healthy way, and because of that, we whatever we have now is tainted. And it does take, like you said, the seasons to get out of that. It does take a strong woman or a strong man to come back from that, to be able to say, hey, we went through this, but I see something in you, and I want to continue this path with you. And I don't know if that's a necessity, because that's always the argument with certain women, like, oh, it doesn't take heartbreak in order for us to say we love each other. I don't know if that's a necessity in order for you to see if you can make it weather through any storm, right? Or if there's a way that you can go. Even saying it, I don't know, but I don't want on this call, putting it out there, I don't want it to be like, hey, I condone a certain kind of behavior in order for a successful relationship to come to pass. That's not what I'm trying to get at. So I do want to say that, but I do wonder, with the wrong, as a man, right? Because we're supposed to be the leader. Is it more important for us to have our things together to an extent before coming into marriage, so that way we can lead? Or is it beneficial to find something, being where we are, and praying that God will take control and help the situation? So I again, like last time, I don't want to run past too much of an hour, because I do want people to be able to sit through this, and because I don't want to just be three brothers on this call talking, getting our words across, and no one grows from this within us or someone else that listens to it. So I do want people to be able to sit through this, gather information, and take tangible things away from this. First of all, thank you so much, Pastor Jerry, for coming, because your insight and your education, and I guess that's the pastor in you, where you're a teacher, right? You're a leader, where you didn't just come to speak, you came to teach, right? We got some tangible gems from you. So I thank you for that. Brothers, as always, don't feel rushed, but any closing remarks that you guys want to bring up, anything that Pastor has said, anything that you've had on your mind prior to us getting to this point. And again, don't feel rushed, but I just want to, make sure we're reminded that we're all around that hour mark.
Yeah, I was very grateful to have our guest, Mr. Girley, here. I was happy that even my brother, my guy over there, asked about the relationship, because I was very interested in the relationship aspect, and I even got a little relationship advice from what you were saying. But I was happy to hear a different perspective, and even somebody that could tell about one, from a positive relationship with a woman and how they build each other up, and the different side, as well as somebody who can give the older perspective and a spiritual perspective on the roads through society, through the past, through history, and things like that. So yeah, I was excited, and he didn't fail. I was very happy to have you with us. I was happy to be here once again, and everything like that. And I look forward to the next one for sure.
Wolf on y'all.
You say what?
Wolf on y'all street.
Man, it was so many takeaways, man. Like I'm gonna hone in on the one I think I like the most. I just like all of them though. I like the whole thing. So legitimately I can say that what I did take away is that the Eurocentric, or like the Western way of thinking, has legit polluted the mind of man, because we do sometimes think that it is not manly to stay at home with your kids sometimes, or for your wife to go out and make more money than you. There are sometimes people that are ashamed of that, but really there is no shame in that, especially if you're secure in your role, knowing exactly who you are and who you're supposed to be in a divine purpose. So I'm extremely grateful that you joined us, Pastor Girley. I don't know what else to say, man. I'm extremely excited where this goes, because you legit shifted everything about the conversation that we had last week. Because now, like, I'm seeing stuff that I was saying last week, and I'm able to see I'm able to see a different side to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was great to have a different perspective, and I like the way you shifted the conversation. Even you gave me a lot to think about and things like that as well.
I think that's why all of us are sitting here just.
Yeah, we were all sitting today
like we could talk. All of us in our individuality can speak, and when we come together as a collective, we definitely can talk. That's why I try to keep that, But today I felt like it was more like a listening. And I think that's exactly what I wanted for this call today. I definitely wanted to grow, right? Because without our own growth, how can we help others do the same? So this was definitely an insightful call. Pastor, please tell us you're going to join us again.
Let us know what you think, sir. Let us know what you feel about tonight.
Well, I'll be less vocal next time, but I definitely want to join you. Listen, here's a lesson about getting smarter. Always learn. Always to be open to learn more. So I don't say that like lightly, that I hope that I can learn something from you. I know I can learn something from you. I want to spend more time fishing, but I want to know that when I'm out on the fishing creek, young men like you with energy, intelligence, and a desire to do the right thing is out there carrying on the fight. So I'll tune in to see if I can support and facilitate y'all to get to your purpose, because that's going to be transformative for our community. So I'm excited to know that this group exists. So I will tune in again, and I'm encouraged by what I see in you and hear in you, and God bless you guys for doing this, man.
God bless you for coming. I'm so happy that you were.
Yeah. And I guess for who's in Atlanta, I'm actually going to be traveling up there to Atlanta on Thursday just to hang out for a couple of days.
Wow, I'm flying out Thursday to go to New York for a week.
Well, there you go.
But
catch you on the flip side.
We'll be in communication, because Sean knows I come down to Florida. I'm outlived in Florida, right around the corner from where he lived for a while. Me and my dad just moved to Georgia to do fix and flips. We could get into that content on a personal level. I don't want that in recording. I don't mind, but I don't take too much time for this. But Pastor, if you have any brothers It don't matter the age, young, teenage, grown, elderly, invite them.
I
Because
will.
yeah, this is not a we dominate, as you can see, conversation where we just saying how we feel and what we got. No, we're actually gonna go based off of an outline of a book by Dr. Miles Monroe and give our understanding and a perspective so we can all grow from this book, though. It's not just like how we feel about society. It's like, no, what are we getting from this book and how can we give this information back to other men?
And
So
where did you get the book from, sir?
Amazon. I got it from Amazon.
Okay. All
A
right.
little,
I will get the book so that when I tune in next time I can talk to your specific topic more.
Absolutely. It is we're gonna be on chapter 1 next week. So we're reading
Okay,
chapter
sir.
2 this week, and the next Tuesday we'll be on chapter 1.
All right, sir.
I'm
Thank you for
trying to
allowing
find a
me to participate.
better date so we can be guys, thank you so much for tuning in. This
Thank
was
you.
episode 2. Oh my goodness, this was I
It's just getting deep. It's just getting deep.
still did hit chapter 1. All right.
We have yet to get past the preface. Like how are we doing this? This is 2 weeks in a row.
So
We're gonna introduction episodes. We're gonna hit chapter 1.
yes. So please, guys, come back.
Please.
Like, subscribe. You can find all of us on Instagram and as well as YouTube. Mr. High Energy in the building.
Wolf on Y'all Street.
At George Flipped Houses.
Amen. We got Pastor Girley. I'm
Oh,
not
wait,
sure.
is it trial and error?
George.
Trial and error.
George, where do you flip houses?
I'm a realtor in New York.
Okay.
I'm trying to do a deal in LA coming up soon. I got some house I'm looking at over there, but we flip all over.
Well, see, George, I'm a businessman also, so I need to talk to George at Flip Houses. And,
I was gonna contact info after this anyways. We're gonna talk. We definitely gonna talk.
okay, George. Look forward to it.
Mhm.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you. It's my honor to have this time with y'all.
Thank
Okay.
you.
It will be available
All
on
right.
YouTube tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. Just so you know. Well, yeah, I'm saying it tonight, but the very next day is up by 3:30. So
Yes.
Okay.
Guys, find us on social media. We have High Energy Conversations. And what is your YouTube handle?
Wolf on Y'all Street, man, 2 F's. We it's legit about the connection, but we'll talk about that another time, man. Wolf on Y'all Street is something totally different, but it's about connecting.
Awesome. Guys, we love you. We appreciate you. See you next episode.
Bye-bye.